Good afternoon. How are you? Bogota, yes. Maria, Virginia. They are the ones that v. Good afternoon. Ports to recognize. Hello, good afternoon, nice to meet you. Tal, what about galaxy? Good afternoon, Pablo, it's good to see you here. Taste. Taste. A couple of other people are going to join on behalf of BICE. So excellent, it makes me dare to resend the invitation very well. Good to follow the games. It's a good possibility. We could exchange figurines as well. Here's the album with Panini and there's everyone with the album, I join that. And at halftime we filled out the questionnaire. Helen. To coincide to take advantage of a little and receive them here. No longer with the pretext, well, the purpose. Well, we are in time. Okay. Do you think we can get started? And I'll start by warning you. Waking up until we have the simultaneous interpretation there. But I know that's enough. Is it better? Below you have the interpretation option and everyone has the option to choose. I am. This plenary session that she follows the plenary session we held the first of the year ago. Please, you can move on to the next one. This is our proposal that we bring today for discussion topics. They are. We have 1:30 a.m. We will try to be as efficient as possible. But it's a pretty ambitious agenda. The first point we want to share with you what we learned from the pilot implementation process, that we are in progress now. The second topic is today. Officially start the diagnosis with all the other 25 members of the network partners of the network. The 25 banks that are part of the network as well. And the third topic is to bring the results of the online consultations we conducted on various coffee topics, planned evaluations. Topics to feed our repository and the proposals that we bring to address each of these topics, considering our calendar for the year. So, they are topics that we bring here. And the last point would also be to talk about the course, which is about to begin. We want to update them and comment on some other topics, such as, for example, the light assembly. It's a new member that's getting closer to the network. I left the ending in suspense, and the last topic is an open topic where we would like to invite all those who have important issues, topics to share, good news and bad news too, of course, but references, good news. I know that we have good news and issues that are taking place at each of the banks, and if there aren't any, no other topic in a disagreement. I propose that we start immediately just by commenting that we are recording this session, and at the end of the plenary session, will be distributed to everyone. This presentation in the 3 languages. I'm going to present in Spanish. But you will have access to the same presentation in Portuguese and English as well. There, throughout the presentation, you, please, feel free to raise your hand and raise what you want to comment on in terms of comments. Questions like we always do. It's fine. Then I start the session. I would immediately give the floor to Emilio to open the first topic, which is about pilot learning, and what we have ahead of us is 1000. Please, with the word. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being welcome. To one of our partners at ReDeCa, we are happy to have this plenary session with you. We are very excited because today we have a challenge. Today we have the opportunity that we are a coordinated network that advances towards shared goals. Today we have that opportunity to show ourselves that when we work together we are better and can reach the finish line as a team, which is the spirit of a network like ReDeCa, like ours. I want to thank each and every one of you and your institutions for their commitment very much, because the challenge we have today, it reflects a commitment that goes beyond participating in an online plenary session or suddenly having to participate in a face-to-face event. The challenge we have today is going to prove to us that we are a network that can work together and in an influential way because, as you know, a few weeks ago we began to implement the pilot from the institutional diagnosis of monitoring and evaluation of ReDeCa. As already told us, Claudio told us, we have some learnings, and since these learnings are aimed at all of us being able to reach the finish line together, we have a challenge as a network that begins today. Today begins this challenge that we have together, and I want to tell you what it consists of, where we are, where are we going to go to win this challenge as a team, and what do we have to do to get there. As you know, we are going to have our 2026 annual meeting of ReDeCa this year in Lima. Thanks to our extraordinary hosts from the IDE who are going to receive us at the House of the Development Bank in Latin America and the Caribbean in the capital of Peru. As you know, we are a network where we have 29 participants. We have 29 participants, and the challenge is to do so that when we arrive in Lima we have each of the institutional profiles That is, each of the reports with the answers, findings and some recommendations of the institutional diagnosis of monitoring and evaluation of our network. As you know, we have already started the pilot and we are very happy to share with you that one of the learnings we have learned thanks to the institutions that have participated, which we are going to mention in a moment, is that this is a race that begins earlier than we thought it should start, and the exact date is today. As you can see, today is May 14th and we have to get to the end. From October to Lima, with each of our institutional profiles. That is why the challenge begins today in this plenary session, and we have to arrive as a team all together. Today we give that flag from the start, and the idea is to arrive all as a team in Lima. That you start the work a little earlier. But do not worry, because there are two very important aspects. First of all, the work that we are going to start is very important, but we can do it little by little, and now we are going to put the calendar on the screen, and that will allow us to when we start. The phase to fully implement the questionnaire that we all know. We will have everything we need to move forward quickly and stay on schedule. The challenge is for these 29 institutions. During the next 5 months, can each one arrive having solved the questionnaire and having the action plan or policy brief for when we arrive in Lima. The important thing here is just what we are going to see in the slide that comes next. We have 3 very important moments so that we can work together on this project, on this race, and cross the finish line all together. This coincides in 3 key actions. What each and every one of us has to do from our institutions to be able to reach the goal on time in less than 5 months. The first consists of fill out the questionnaire that we are going to send when this plenary session ends before May 27th. That is, we have 13 days to fill out this questionnaire. But the sooner you can complete it, the better. Because this questionnaire will allow us to understand the size of the challenge in order to get all the information we need to fill out the diagnostic instrument, the questionnaire, to be able to answer it. And it will also allow us to do this. What are the best ways to support them to fill out this diagnosis, so that we can make it a very fluid process in each of their institutions? Because, as you know, this team also includes us as BID, ClearLac and ClearLab as a support team in the implementation. This is very important. Again, to complete that questionnaire that we are going to send today no later than May 27th. May 27, as I was just put in the chat. At the latest. Point number 2, familiarize yourself with the instrument. We are about to share it with you, and many of you already have the final version of the questionnaire, and it is very important that you can set aside some time, so that they can calmly check the instrument. This will allow them to have a very clear idea of why we are very interested in knowing certain types of information from its institutions, because it is very important that you know it and structure it as well. And this is also very important to us. Lays the foundations to understand why it is so essential to fill out this questionnaire, to have certain key documents from your own institutions. Please, as soon as they receive the instrument with the questions, the diagnosis of ReDeCa, please review it between May and June. You will also be receiving it soon, and the idea is that you can start reviewing it at once and be very familiar. This will also help us to move very quickly in the implementation of the instrument when the date of each of the participating institutions arrives. This between May and June. Finally, it is very important to start collecting. Collect the key documents that will allow us to have the information with complete certainty to answer the questions of the questionnaire in the most appropriate way, and also to know how we have to fine-tune. Some interview scripts with key actors based on information that is not documented in any writing generated by their institutions. It is very important that this documentary collection is ready before June 22nd. I want to reiterate that we are the implementing team. You already know us. We are the clear team that you have on the screen, the clear lab team. That is also here with us and the OV team. We are accompanying you at every moment of the implementation of the tool, and we are here to support you. But one of our findings is precisely that this is a race that has to start earlier. And the sooner we start it, the better to get there together. I want to make a very special recognition to our colleagues from the BNDS. To our colleagues from the BRD, to our colleagues from the DFC, from Belize. And of course, also to our colleagues at Banco Provincia de Buenos Aires. Because it is thanks to them that we have this discovery that will allow us all to be ready and reach this goal. To this goal at the end of October in Lima. Where we can all have very clear information from the questionnaire, and it will allow us to think about the future of the network so that we can continue to make a difference, with strengthening of monitoring and evaluation practices. Once again, many thanks to the institutions that have participated in the pilot. I want to recognize the great work of each and every one of the representatives before the network. Of course, also of the implementation team, who have been documenting our progress and generating learnings like this. We have this challenge and we have 3 clear actions. Complete the questionnaire as soon as you receive it after the plenary and before May 27th. To familiarize yourself with the instrument as soon as possible between May and June. And to collect the essential documents before June 22nd so that we can all start in an even line and reach the goal together. Thank you very much and great. We are starting and going together towards this shared goal. I wanted to. Just before I give the floor to Juan Pablo. That will continue our exercise. Thank everyone who answered the questionnaire that we sent. Before this plenary session, say that we are still retrieving the information and ask those who haven't had time yet to please do it on the link we sent. The invitation for today's meeting. I think in 10 minutes you will be able to answer. And it's important because it's information that we're going to take into account to do a better workout. And another very brief request is also that if you can put the name of the banks next to your names to make it easier for us to take the minutes. I know almost everyone, but just to help. Is it okay? Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Juan Pablo. Please. Thank you very much. Where are we from and where are we heading? In this section we want to understand what we are doing with the next slide pilot. Currently, the pilot is carried out jointly by the institutions that you are seeing. This is an activity that is done collectively, cooperatively and collaboratively. It is not made by a single institution. We have here institutions that make or what we call pilot institutions, that are part of ReDeCa. ReDeCa, we have DFC of Belize, we have the BNDS of Brazil, we have the BRDE as well. Yes. And we have the Provincial Bank, the BP, the BPB, the Buenos Aires Bank, the Argentine Bank. These 4 countries each have those 3 countries. Sorry. They have features, characteristics, Different characteristics that we try to make part of the pilot to show how the instrument can adapt to different realities. But they don't do it alone. These 4 institutions also have the support of the implementation team. This implementation team is made up of institutions that have a long history in evaluation, monitoring, and evaluation in terms of capacity building. In terms of capacity building, both at the continental level and also in other regions. That is why we have here the LAC that participates by giving it support here next door. Yes, obviously it also contributes. It supports the operation of the teams and of course, the OVBIT team, which also has its accumulation and has its vision. Yes. Around what are? Obviously, evaluation and also institutions that make the development bank in the region. Therefore, all these institutions have been working together, carrying out the pilot and applying the instrument with a very clear goal, yes. And is it how do we manage to learn how we manage to improve this instrument? So that we can scale it to the level of all. Next slide, ReDeCa please. This instrument that we are piloting at the moment has some important characteristics to pay attention to. It is an instrument that has to be applied in different phases and that in turn, has different dimensions. What are the dimensions that the instrument analyzes? Well, it has to do with the institutional profile. It has to do with the decision-making process and it has to do with monitoring and evaluation capacities. Each of these dimensions has questions to be able to reveal their current situation. Its current characteristic in each of the institutions. Although we know that we have a large number of questions, there are 189. We are currently working on purified in some way. Also improving them in order to do so. If an instrument more flexible and appropriate to the institutional characteristics. So, with the institutional profile, the first dimension, we try to understand its mandate, the mission, the characteristics of the nature of each of the institutions with the decision-making process or dimension 2. We are trying to understand what these information needs are that each of the institutions has. Associated with its operations, to the decision-making associated with strategic plans. That is, what does it have to do with the decisions that are made on a daily basis both at the strategic and operational levels in each institution? And finally, the monitoring and evaluation capacities refer to the devices, practices and instruments that each institution has precisely to account for these dimensions. These are precisely the topics addressed in the questionnaire. Now, how is it done? How is it answered? How is this instrument applied? There are different phases for that. In the process there is a familiarization phase. Another phase of information gathering. Information gathering. First Senate or stage 3 that you can see on the screen. A stage 4, which is the collection of missing information. A stage of 5, which is 1 second filling of the instrument. And a cap 6, which is the profile of the institution where self-diagnosis already takes shape of. A brief document where they are shown. Opportunities for improvement are shown and it is the basis for the preparation of the improvement plan or the sheet for strengthening institutional capacities. Currently, the pilot is going through phases 2 and 3. Yes, familiarization has already advanced a lot. The collection of information has taken time, but progress is being made in that and it has been given and he has been holding the first Senate of the instrument. Now, what have we learned from this? Next slide, please. What we have learned so far is that, indeed, if being able to collect information takes a while, perhaps more or more intense or longer than initially planned at the time of the initial planning. And this basically responds to 4 main reasons. Next is please. First of all, something that we have learned in this piloting process, which is a piloting process of both the application procedure and the instrument, is that many times the information that is required to answer that questionnaire takes or requires It is nested in different places in organizations. Therefore, there is more than one person or more than one division or unit responsible for that information. What does this imply? Well, this implies that that consultation time or that information management time, is it greater than if they had a single place? The second reason, which we have also seen takes additional time, is that many times accessing this information also requires institutional authorization. Yes, specific. And this has also led to the need for some kind of grade or some kind of internal approval. Yes, at the institutional level, in order to be able to access that information and to be able to use it in the response to the questionnaire. And finally, two additional reasons that lead or have taken an additional amount of time. And the fact is that each institution starts from different moments of, I would say, different starting points in terms of the collection of information. For example, there are institutions that have recently managed to be certified in some aspect or that have recently done a strategic planning exercise and have a lot of information that is already ordered, systematized, stored. There are other institutions. They have different situations and therefore that makes the starting point if in the collection of information is different. Finally, 1/4 reason. And this is also important to keep in mind. If the instrument also has a learning curve, we are also just as it is a logical part of a pilot adjusting some of these questions. And that also requires some time to adjust the question. The answer if the scope of each question even to the terms that are used as well. We are revising them to make them thinner and more adjusted to the reality of each of the institutions. In short, the piloting is in a very good moment. Is progress being made? Yes, to be able to meet the objectives of testing the instrument. This, although it is taking additional time, is leaving valuable lessons learned for what is going to be in the next stage or the scaling of the instrument to all members. Yes, from the ReDeCa family, so that's the current situation and I'm coming back to you, Jose Clave. Jose Claudio, I would now like to invite Paulina to discuss this segment of how we are going to approach these together. A pleasure to see you again. Well, up to this point we have been looking back towards the challenge we have and what we learned from the pilot. But from this moment on we changed our tone a little and we stopped talking about what we discovered and started talking about how we are going to solve it together. And I would like to start by saying something that I think is important as Emil said, although the formal implementation begins in July, the pre-phase work begins today. What comes next then would be this 6-week preface, and the work we carry out during this time is the key to a smooth implementation. So, in the next few minutes we're going to look at exactly what these pre-phases entail. How are the inputs that we are going to ask of you? How the implementing team is going to accompany us and what is going to be the specific schedule for completion. Next slide, please. Well, we already saw this slide with Emil, but I'd like to emphasize a little. The pilot taught us that the initial phase takes time. Not because of a lack of will, but because it can involve internal coordination, authorizations, people who guard information from different areas. So the question is not how to accelerate this, but how we can prepare and start earlier. And this is exactly what we're going to do. There are all these 3 actions that the following likes I am going to deepen and all of these start today and all of them also close before the summer. We're going to see each other one by one. But I want you to keep in mind that together they are 3 pieces that are key to a smooth implementation. Next slide, please. And the action. 1 would be to share its institutional context that we have as a date before May 27th. This is, without a doubt, the most important action we are going to ask of you today. Well, today. At the end of this session you will receive a questionnaire in your email. This questionnaire should take you 12 to 15 minutes, no more. And what they tell us there, we are going to ask a series of questions. But mainly it is to identify bottlenecks. What modality of support do you prefer the month you want to implement this tool? Well, everything you answer us is the direct input with which we are going to design the accompaniment of your institution. That is why it is very key. Because without this information, to the end, and what the pilot taught us is precisely that each institution is different and we cannot apply the same recipe to the 25 institutions. Well, once you answer this questionnaire, you're going to get access to a drive that we're going to use throughout the implementation process. Each institution will have its own folder, and that is where we will find all the available supplies. So once the questionnaire is answered, we give you access to that folder. Action 2 would be to familiarize yourself with the instrument, and that would also be between May and June. Well, the pilot instrument is also going to arrive by mail today. Sorry. It's not the final version because, as Juan Pablo said, we are in the process of simplifying it a little. But we are going to deliver it to you. The instrument that we used for the pilot. Here it is important to emphasize that it is not that we are asking you to fill it out. That comes later for the implementation phase. We only ask you to know it in the Keybogen fund that identifies which area of your institutions you are going to be involved when the time comes. And this will also save us weeks of work later on. And finally there is this Action 3. Which would be the documentary copy that they are also asked to be before June 21st. And you are also going to receive this guide today. Well, it is organized by institutional areas, and for this is to make it easier to know who to ask for each document. To whom, to which area of your organization we are going to have to ask them to give us information. As I said earlier, you have 6 weeks to move forward on this, and I also recommend not leaving it for the end because identify who is in custody of each document. Who transmits the internal authorization can take time, so start with 1. So it would be 3 actions. 6 weeks, and that would be the basis to arrive well in Lima the following October. Slide, please. That Claudio. Well, the idea, and this to emphasize to you, is that it is not a process that you are going to go through alone. I want to tell you how the accompaniment that comes from the implementing team is going to be organized. Well, but I would also like to make it clear first that this is not going to be a standard list, that the 25 institutions apply in the same way. So what you answer in the post-plenary questionnaire is going to define which resources we prepare first at the level of detail. Why then is the accompaniment going to be molded from what you tell us in that instance? Well, having said that, there are 4 big lines of accompaniment where the implementing team is us. We are going to accompany them during the process. The first, I told him a little. It would be this personalized accompaniment. The implementation team will be with each institution during its implementation block. There is going to be constant communication. You're going to have a focal point where specific person. The implementing team is going to be their counterpart, and we are going to support them. The implementation of the instrument will be carried out en bloc until July, August, September. And are you going to have to choose which month suits you best or which block suits MasterCard? So we are not going to assign you to you, but we adapt to your times, and all this is answered in the post-plenary survey. Second accompaniment is the materials for internal socialization. There is a learning from the pilot that we know that an important part of the work is within their institutions. So, for example, that you have to convince other areas. Ask for a document. Explain what the process consists of, and for that, then we are going to facilitate that process. For you, we are going to prepare you an infographic about ReDeCa. We are going to make a formal contact from the institution, and that supports the participation. A document of frequently asked questions. An email template to request documents internally. In the end, help them generate that internal communication towards their institution. And does it help us a little to unblock this communication of what ReDeCa is and what this process is for? The third is technical support with artificial intelligence. We want to use artificial intelligence to facilitate the process of filling out the questionnaire. And here I also want to be very explicit that we have routes for institutions that have authorized artificial intelligence and routes for those that do not. The idea is that if your institution doesn't allow the use of artificial intelligence, that's not a problem. Is there going to be an alternative way? But knowing what your regulations are for the use of IA is also going to be fundamental for us to help you in that process. And the fourth that we're still defining is how it's going to take shape in a learning community. The idea is to open a space that is going to be virtual, where the institutions that participated in the pilot can share their experience with the rest of the institution. Basically, that they can tell you what worked, what was difficult, what would you recommend. We believe something that is valuable to explore but that the details are still by trust already now. Let's see how all these pieces are ordered over time. We need to get to the date well until June 22nd. We need to arrive all under the same starting point, all 25 institutions at the same starting point. And what does it mean to arrive well at that date? Well, it means 3 specific things that I mentioned. First, that the plenary questionnaire is answered. We are going to see the context of each institution and how to accompany it. Second, that the documentary copy is already ready and in progress. The internal areas are coordinated and the authorizations are already underway. And the third thing is that you become familiar with the instrument. That is, to know what is going to be asked and who needs to be involved. Well, after June 22nd the implementation of this format begins for us. We are not going to delve into that now, so as not to overwhelm it, but I want you to be clear that it is going to be July, August and September, the 3 months of implementation according to the block you choose. And the idea is then to reach October in the plenary with the profiles already made. Now next I'm Claudia. And this just to see an image. The things we told you before. Previously. Today May 14th we are going to send you the three supplies by mail. That is, the questionnaire, the document collection guide and the pilot instrument. All this is going to come today, on May 27th. That is, attacking 14 days, it is the date for the closing of the response of the post-clear. And again I want to be very emphatic about everything that we're going to show you. And everything that appears on the calendar. This is the date that is the most important. That is the most priority and that we should place special emphasis on. And the rest comes later, but May 27th. We need your answers to prepare personalized support for each institution. On June 22nd, the documentary copy closes. So the idea is that it is already there. Coordination could already be ready, and from July to September we would begin with the implementation of the diagnosis in the blocks that each institution registered, and already in October. In Lima there would be the rural meeting of the network, and there. It is the moment when the 29 complete institutional profiles and the network roadmap are presented. So, that is the goal that we want to achieve with this whole process. That would be what is coming. Let's see, I'll give the floor to Josie Claw. Well. We have very intense moments in these coming months. But we are convinced that we will be able to achieve the goals we set. Having this sectoral diagnosis in October is a product for each of the institutions to be able to develop their monitoring systems, evaluation, and leaving it here, once more clear than us. The entire coordination team will be accompanying you all the time in whatever is necessary. Don't worry about that. Well. But ReDeCa isn't just a self-diagnostician, although extremely important. Then we define some other activities as part of our planning, and based on the best, implement those activities that we have approved. At the beginning of the year, we conducted an online consultation to identify priorities according to each of the partners and with that, establish a work plan. So, please, the next one. So I just wanted to bring you first place here and highlight the great participation. I mean, in fact, there were 28 responses, 29 partners for all the questions that were asked, right? And we basically asked what topics would you like to see addressed at the cafe provided by women, which was that coffee that we approved at the last plenary session, I mean. And we collected that information and I'm going to share with you what topics would be. Could they be hugged in this one? In this cafe? The second aspect that I have already mentioned is that wide participation. And the third is that we want to put it like us. The proposals that we are making for each of these. Of those topics that we consulted. The next one, please. Well, in the research regarding ReDeCa coffee, one of the women what drew attention during the consultation was the fact that the major concern of all partners is that this panel would help everyone to have an orientation, a guide, a way to better face them. The topics related to the gender approach, when they made the evaluations. From the issue of data to how to apply this type of approach within each of the institutions. Then he indicated himself, for instance. It would be important to leave this cafe with a clearer idea about the indicators that we could use in the monitoring and evaluation of these operations. Good evaluation practices in relation to the issue of gender. Methods for collecting data, the assessment focus, right? With this gender perspective and these themes were all passed on to the UN team, women. Which is the fact that we have today and that is a matter of schedule. They could only answer us at the end of July. Not as we would like it to be in the first semester. So we are in talks with them so that we can have that schedule soon. And so I have everyone to save the date. So that we can make this coffee that has been approved by everyone. The next one, please. Those are the topics that I have already mentioned. I ended up anticipating the topics that stood out more than the indicators. Good practices. Then it can pass, please. On the next slide. The topics that appeared that we searched for, classify them based on the answers. Those 3-1 were 3-block systems. Monitoring tools and data. Assessment, methodologies. Impact and assessment. And the third is the climate issue and sustainable finance. So, the sustainable objective. Also for sustainable development. It's sustainable finance. Those were the topics that caught the most attention. Although it is statistically clear, planning and institutional strengthening is also a topic that was practically tied to the climate and sustainability issues. Artificial intelligence was also mentioned. Exchange between institutions. The issue of gender once again appears as a matter of great interest and sectoral applications. The infrastructure. Teams and the regional focus were also mentioned by 3 network partners. Afterwards, in the end, I'm going to go over how we're going to be suggesting to face all these questions. Right? All those suggestions? The next one, please. Now we also ask what it would have been. What would be the preference regarding participation in these cafes and what, for the most part, which is, obviously everyone wants to participate, but for the most part, as a listener. Now, for candidates applied to present a case, an experience at the cafes, right? Some too. For partners said that there are themes. The challenges they would like to see addressed in cafes. And basically, that was the couple of partners. I would like to share a tool or resource that you have to share, and I will try to illustrate a little bit about the suggestions we received. The next one was. So here are listed the partners who presented themselves as candidates to share their experiences or challenges. So we have here from BD who predict that they may have important contributions from a course that they, which will offer about gender and diversity. So I believe there will be important lessons. Soon you will be able to share with the BDESC network. He suggested sharing the experience of the monitoring construction process, monitoring and evaluation at your institution, the BDE. You're doing an evaluation of the provincial road program. Then you can share the results of that assessment, just like BNB, which proposes to share the results of the assessment of its credit lines, employment and salaries. BBVA launched an issue. Look, we have a challenge that we would like to discuss, to share, which would be the construction of monitoring indicators. Evaluation for funding programs with gender perspectives. FINEP is present here. I've seen Marcia, Carolina. They are there to share. They applied to share the results of the first evaluation, and FINEP is doing so in accordance with its 3-year evaluation plan. So it's one more important sharing proposal. Fomento Goya's proposed to share. Provide information about the government tool they use to monitor projects, which is Google Maps. So does Seabri. You applied so you could show us. Let us know the assessment they made. A study on female entrepreneurship and wage equity in Brazil. So, we have very rich experiences to share, right? Challenges to be discussed. As I said, I'm leaving it for last. How are we thinking of embracing this? The next one, please. In relation to this topic, me. We are here about to say that we already announced the repository at the previous plenary session. Finally, it became available. He's ready, right? And the query we made was in the sense of how we would prioritize in terms of occupying this repository with items and topics important to the network. And, in the same way, an issue related to evaluations that each institution is planning. If that's the case where we're going to be. In a little while I'll leave that topic for a little while. Regarding the next one can pass. Well, in relation to the repository. What was seen was a 100% preference for everyone. It was unanimous that the studies and evaluations should be carried out by the partners. They should be available for everyone to access. Secondly, in terms of preference, the question came up regarding business profiles. That it would be important for each member of the network to know what the network in general and each other partner does with the financial instruments they have. Anyway, a profile. The network's profile was known to everyone. The third topic was both and the business profile and the profile of the institutions. Both are themes, too. They were two different questions, but they had a high level of response. And a fourth item was that a talent profile was also available in that repository. I.E. The curriculum and areas of expertise of the members who participate in the network so that they could be searched based on certain subjects or themes and thus facilitate the exchange of information and the provision of knowledge in the areas that each member needs. Well, so it's please. The next one. Here, in terms of reviews, I'm going to stop here a little bit and I'm going to tell you the following. I would like to announce the presence here with us of our colleague Fernando Olaf. Him, or Fernando. He's an expert, CMS leader, right? That obviously no one will know what the acronym is besides us from the IDB. But it is the IDB department that provides financing and operations with development banks in the region. So Fernando, on behalf of the MF, asked us to ask this question to all members of the network. In terms of the evaluations that are being planned by the network's partners, and I will then pass on the floor to Fernando. Announcing that we identified a set of assessments in the institutions of Sudan, BNB, Sudan, BNDS, Promotion, Goyas, FINEP, BDE. COFINS, and this set of evaluations was passed on to Fernando, and Fernando will exchange a few words here for us. Because this answer is important. And what? How do you view this issue? Ferdinand, it's a pleasure to give you the floor. The interpretation gives a little delay what you mention. This one I hope I have captured the message well. I think what's important for us is to see how we, from the public side of the IDB, can support the efforts of the scholarship and its members. For good. Not only in terms of improving the capabilities of the evaluation engine to do every year. Again linked to programs that we do with programs that we do in our loans to banks. Many of them developed by members of the ReDeCa network then. And the idea is that we support these efforts when we see that we can do it within our programs. And when they are not IDB programs, also to be able to attend, because any type of evaluation of the financial, economic and social impacts of the credits that you make, well, they are very valuable and they count just the same, and we can coordinate with ReDeCa how to make a joint repository. All evaluations, not only ReDeCa, but also include or tests, rather complement with what the IDB does, which is not in ReDeCa, or even include this study outside of the bio-ReDeCa that may also be relevant, for example, the World Bank or someone, I don't know. Or of Europeans. Because in the end what we want to see is what kind of that the instruments that are being used, the programs that are used, what characteristics do they have that can be replicated? What lessons learned are interesting for future programs that development banks make? Thank you very much, Jose Claudio and other members. So, following up. just as we are addressing each of those topics that were consulted. So Fernando already told us about the relationship with the CBF, the ongoing evaluations. In terms of coffee, what we did was simply propose. We are proposing to you that these most prioritized topics, which were monitoring systems and data, monitoring and evaluation, impact methodologies, sustainable climate and finance, whether the topics of the next coffees that we schedule, considering the set of activities that lie ahead of us. More specifically, self-diagnosis is also the course that we will talk about in a little while. So, what does that mean? That what we intend to do here is consider space, including Lima's own annual meeting, right? But whatever we have available in the second semester to allocate those systems that are identified as the main topics of interest in coffee consultation. It is also important to say that with this consultation, we were also able to identify case studies of us carried out on the network, that we can organize sessions at this annual meeting in Quito, right? Well, in relation to the repository, what we are proposing is to prioritize evaluations and studies. I.e. recover that information, of these studies, of these reviews. Within this repository and in relation to the institution's profiles, the business plan, this would be the result of the self-diagnosis itself, because, as you will see, when you begin to familiarize yourself with the questions in the questionnaire, you will see that the first dimension is exactly the institutional profile of the banks and branches that are part of the network. So, at the end of the implementation of formations to be placed in the repository in relation to the institutional profile and business plan. And now we will begin a work to survey these evaluations and studies carried out on the network. And in that sense, I would like to invite ALE to spend a little bit here for us. It's a very general overview of the repository for you. Look, please. Christ. For those who don't know me, my name is Alexandra Alegria. I am working with the CD team on everything that comes to be communications and external relations, and today, as part of my duties, I will be moderating what is becoming Moodle. Be the Moodle. I am going to stop sharing my screen to be able to give you a small demonstration regarding how we have to access Moodle. And this, well, as I'm entering in, I also want to mention that I have some doubts. Any consultations, some assistance that you require. If then in the confidence, please send it to me and I will also make my mail available, and we are not there to add. Give me 1 second while I share my screen. I don't know if you can confirm me, please, if it can be visualized. Yes, right? Yes, it is. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. Sorry. Yes. It looks great. If you can give a little pause to catch up with the performance. Thank you very much, Carrie. Yes, perfect, thank you very much. Well, that's it. As you know, when we have the Moodle platform, each of you has a username and password to be able to enter this link. There is no problem. We are going to provide them so that we all have it at hand. It is the link to enter the platform. So the first thing we do is paste the link. Here we copy it, paste it and click. We're going to get this screen that we can view here. And here we have this good screen to be able to place or our username that we should already have in case we don't remember the username. There is no problem. We can also use our email address with which we have been registered. In my case, I'm going to enter the username that I already have ready here. And I'm going to enter the password, which I can also put here. Done. In case your password is not remembered, your password just remember in your email. There is also a process to be able to recover the password, no. In case you also require assistance in it, or emphasis on this, you can write to me and we can see it to be able to offer you a more personalized assistance. Well, then we log in. Oh, what was it? Give me a second. So that you can see what the experience is as you live it. Yes, really. There. For example, I lost a little number. But well, it's not despairing, it's remembering again. And for example, in my case, only as an anecdote, I had forgotten that there was not any. It was not with a capital letter, it was with a lowercase my password. So well, I said, look, but you can still always recover the password. Done. Well. Then when we enter our platform, the first thing that will come out is this. In this case my user is, therefore, precisely enrolled in the ReDeCa course. Well, I click here on here in DAS dashboard I click here to ReDeCa and let's give it a moment to load the platform so you can see everything in its glory. And well, as I had mentioned, I am Claudio. We have here our platform in ReDeCa. Here we can find some documents. For example, on the ReDeCa standards. Is it worth saying that we have it translated into English, Spanish and Portuguese, right? Here we also have some publications that have been translated in the same way, and perhaps the most interesting thing that in fact is also necessary to mention, is that we also have this one, the recordings of our past plenaries. And also, for example, this session that we are having today with all these notes, with these instructions, it is not going to be lost. We're going to be able to find it here in the Moodle, aren't we? No. So, once the call is over with our team, we're going to be editing, making these adjustments, and we're going to upload it to this platform, and we're going to be able to find it in this part. Yes, as you can see here in the videos. Now, something that I also want to mention is that, and well, I invite you to be able to do just what I mentioned. I am Claudio to be able to make use of this tool that this channel is, which is called Interacts. Let's click here. And ready on this channel, periodically through your emails. We are also going to upload this one, and we are going to send you invitations so that we can upload this content that I have mentioned. Joseph Claw. No. Then please sit down in the freedom to be able to place the information fairly. Not like, for example, I know Claudia mentioned the profiles of the banks, this type of evaluations and so on, because we are going to structure it in a fairly orderly way. I think that would be all on my part. I don't know if I'm Claudia. Would you like to add anything else regarding the mobile? The difficulty in accessing the course of, please. You can say no to me and I can continue. Jose Claudio, then I'll say okay. So tell you that the contact then with Alexandra. She's going to be the one helping in the operationalization of the repository. It's just to go a little further on this. Tell me how we are soon after in the minutes. When sending minutes containing this presentation from today's meeting, we are suggesting a date, right? To be the reference date for those institutions that have evaluations. Studies, put this one in the repository. What's up, based on that? Let's do our homework to organize these assessments based on themes, sectors, and then we will establish a new one. A new date for collecting resumes. And so we are able to carry out a process of collectively building this repository. Well, in relation to coffee with women, I don't have much to say. Because in fact we depend on the availability of the technicians who are going to make this presentation. This one. That coffee. So there's a tentative date that's in July and we're going to have to take a good look. See what everyone's schedule is like. With the implementation of the diagnosis so that it does not coincide with the cup, that doesn't match the course. But there will be this coffee. Already, okay? Now, it's already scheduled. How was it approved by everyone? Well, regarding the next one, please. Can you talk about it now? Would be other topics that we have on the agenda. Which would basically be the course and would also comment on 2 other topics. Leads meeting and one is about a new partner. So I'm going to start with the course and start with the course. Inviting Karina, who is also part of our team, to update us about the course. Thank you very much. Well, I don't want to take too much time. I just want to explain a little bit about this call for the monitoring and evaluation course. This course is made up of 3 sessions. These 3 sessions are going to be approximately 2:30. The schedules and the days change a little, but they are going to be distributed over 3 weeks of June. I assure you that none of the sessions interrupts any match of the cup, which I know is something very important that. So you can rest assured that you are not going to miss any game. The call consists of a space for 2 people for each of the benches, so that you can register. It is important that these people are nominated. Are they sent with their names, positions and institutional email to the email that you can see below, which is my email and has to have the subject ReDeCa training, so that you can nominate these participants. This must be sent before May 22nd. That means that we have a week to review who will be the participants of each of the banks, and they can send it so that we can get in touch. The sessions will be an introduction to monitoring and evaluation and theory of change, design of indicators and monitoring of results, evaluation of results with contribution analysis. These sessions are going to be incremental sessions, so it is important to participate in all 3 sessions. It is a relevant commitment to be able to reach the 3rd session. Each of the sessions will be taught in a network language and simultaneous interpretation will be available to all. The first session will be taught in Spanish, the second in Portuguese and the third in English. Yes, March. And as soon as it is the institution. If it's like we've had some people here at FINEP who have taken other courses. They took a course. Those courses there at LAC. I would like to know if they are aimed at people who are starting others in monitoring evaluation so that we can know more or less the profile of those who would participate, or if they are already more. If the content is more advanced. I was left in doubt in the 3rd course. For example, of course, that they have gone to that they were EVALAC last year. That is, in 2025 they would have a little. The same course, so they are not people that we recommend that you nominate. However, any have participated in evaluation in other editions. The content of this course is different. It's different because we're here. Introducing a methodology that has to do with COMBI, which is basically an analysis methodology based on actors in behavior changes. It is a different methodology. So if they did not participate in EvaluAC 2025, it is. Is the course valuable to them? If they participated in 2025, they would be ruled out of being nominated. Perfect, but let him talk. Thank you very much. If there are any other questions so as not to take up more time, if it seems good to you, we can leave it in the chat. I am answering it, and it is basically this information that will be available in the 3 languages so that you can consult it. And he was available for any questions. I don't know if I'm Claudio or someone from the team wants to compliment. Thank you. Say that they will also receive it in No by email with the minutes. What she said to Karina: as soon as everyone will be able to guide within the institution. When identifying who could participate in the course. Well, I was now moving on to the next one. Please. Nah. Previous. Me. Item 3. Now 2 items. Well. What I would like to discuss with you is that it was to our satisfaction. Lydia invited us to make a presentation about ReDeCa at Lydia's assembly, which will be held next week and on Wednesday, Friday of next week. Then it opened up to us. He opened a space for us. We will have 15 minutes for us to explain to all the banks that belong to Lydia the importance of monitoring and evaluation and the role of the network. And with that, to make ReDeCa take care of hearts and minds. Also those of the people who normally participate in Lydia, that are not necessarily involved with monitoring and evaluation. So we see this as a great opportunity, and that's what we've been doing in recent months. Which is an attempt to sensitize the top management of banks and branches of the importance of this agenda, monitoring schedule, evaluation and strengthening ReDeCa based on this type of approach. So we see that it's a great opportunity for us to strengthen and promote ReDeCa in the region, through this participation. The invitation we received from our colleagues at CMF was also no less joyous. Fernando, who is present here, who also invited us to participate in a panel that is being organized by the CMF. As I said, me, operational financial arm of the IDB, whose clients are Banco de Desarrollo. So, to participate in this panel too, and I will ask Fernando again to explain a little bit about this panel that we were invited and accepted the invitation. Please, Ferdinand, if you can say a word about explaining about this panel. I know, so. In the ID are held that it was the annual meeting of the region's development banks. Workshops or side events are organized. And in the end we are organizing one on monitoring and evaluation. And that does that. It highlights before you the importance that we are giving to this issue, and we also want the development banks. This one, see that, right? Issue is not visible, and that this issue is above all visible with the top management. Because again in the LIDE they go number 1, second level of the development banks. And to be able to make visible the importance of this issue and talk about the strategies and advances that the evaluation monitor has in the banks. Well, I think it is extremely important, right? Why? And I think it was essential for us to have ReDeCa to tell your experiences of the diagnosis. This, and also see, well, what synergies can be made, because at the end of the day, within a DIRE there has been a group called MEDID, which request for development or something like that is called. And then this coexistence of measuring with ReDeCa. Does it make sense to try to look for some kind of synergies and complementarities? This measurement group was clearly organized by us then. I think we are positioned, well, to see how we can help ourselves too, right? Thank you. Again. Forced at the end, I tell him that I don't know what we were grateful for. Good. Simply on behalf of Obey, I would like to thank CMF for the IDB's connectivity, markets and finance division, and in particular, of course, our point of contact, Fernando de Hoyoki. For this openness, for this close collaboration, which is becoming more and more significant. I want to thank you for the invitation you extend to us, to also participate in the event of the IDA and also very especially for joining this collective challenge that we talked about at the beginning so that we can all reach the finish line together. I want to thank CMF for its support as well, as you will see later. CMF also played a very important role, giving us feedback on the questionnaire. In the development of the questionnaire of the institutional diagnosis. I want to thank CMFY very much, also Fernando for joining this team and because, together we are going to reach that goal together. Thank you very much. He must have had a lot of brigade. A Jose Claudio Palacio. Now I wanted to get to the point again. On the previous slide. No. At the meeting of the dispute, which will be headquartered at the Banco Nacional de Fomento, in Paraguay, who will be the host, between conversations. The Banco Nacional de Fomento contacted us. In fact, I don't know who looked for whom. In fact, that height. But the fact is that we were asked for a meeting and we had a meeting last week with the board of directors of the National Development Bank of Paraguay, where they expressed their interest in being part of ReDeCa. Then I explained to them how ReDeCa works, your goals, what we have done so far, and I asked them, then, that you formalize without your participation in the network, through one of a postulation. And so we're waiting. And as soon as we receive it, we will be submitting to the entire network for network approval. Just like we do with every request for new partners. So I wanted to announce this because I think my feeling is that in our diagnostic exercise, we would do it for 30 banks. So, that's what I wanted to anticipate for you in relation to this one. Those conversations with that potential new partner. And finally, I wanted to move on to the last topic. The last one. But no less important. The next slide, please. To all those who would share news with us, I.E. themes or issues that you think are important. Let the entire network be aware that it occurs. That has occurred in your institutions or that you have experienced in the past few days. Me. I'm going to be indiscreet and I'm going to ask Pedro if he has good news for us. Yes, I do. The good news regarding ReDeCa and BRT, we didn't have a meeting with the director of the DO. There was an opportunity when we were in Washington and it was a very good meeting. Thus, we were able to bring in the bank's planning director, Leonardo Bussato, Who is a senior management interested in the topic? Right? So, the important thing institutionally like this. Bring the BRD closer to the egg, right? And at the time, we even talked and we reported that we had just published our management report. I already sent it to you last year. This is the second management report where we have indicators, results. It has talk about the matrix on top of the product, and I already had about the issue of adhesions from bank hiring to the SDGs, right? But thus systematizing, right? For the second or third year, a single chapter on the effectiveness of the bank, right? So that's a lot of us. We are so proud to have advanced the topic in parallel with the network, right? This is a testimony that what do I do and have done this way with all of you, when I have a chance to talk. Our advances. That. It's perfect, Peter. Thank you very much. I think that's important, and I wanted to testify that at this meeting. That's why I asked you. I said I was indiscreet. I wasn't present at the meeting, but I thought it was important for you to provide feedback from the bank. Because we were also very honored to have received a visit from the BRDE. There was and we felt a growing commitment to that of the BRDE, with monitoring and evaluation and with the network itself. If you'll forgive me, Jose Claudio, I'll even tell everyone there, right? That I already talked to you about the week we had in Washington this week. There was a cocktail, right? What the IDB provided to several guests. I had the opportunity to greet the president of the IDB group and told him that we were from BRDE and that I represented the bank in the network, and I was very grateful to the IDB for that. And him, obviously, at the time he called, remembered the network, right? Since it also opened several events here. I thought so. It was something extinct. I didn't agree with anyone, not even with Jose Claudio, not with anyone. It was really extinct, on time. And I even thought it was important to get outside feedback for him, right? About the network. Because he, as much as I am an enthusiast, is a provider, right? From the IDB, very important. It's important to see from someone outside the institution. Maybe he doesn't have that much opportunity to hear that, right? So I made a point of, and not just about the bank. I think I speak for everyone like that here. I think it's important for this IDB support to all members of the network, right? Romain. Thank you very much. Peter, thank you very much. I don't think we agreed on anything, but it certainly helped us a lot. I think it was a lot. Very important. Well, thank you very much. I don't know if anyone else would like to share or give any news. Marcia. I don't know, I propose Piola. Do you have the hand now? You can say good morning, good afternoon, or good night. I think that's all. Good afternoon to everyone. Well, I wanted to share that this year we approved the new FINEP Triennial Evaluation Plan, which contains 34 evaluations scheduled to be carried out over the next 3 years. And a lot of those, many of these reviews, they are based on ReDeCa. As a function and result of the partnership that we have. Because it was ReDeCa that enabled us to contact various institutions. So, not only with the partners here within the network, but the partners who helped us study too. Monitoring and evaluation along the packaging. So, all of these reviews are contributions. It has a contribution in some way, directly or indirectly, from ReDeCa, to whom the institution I am very grateful. And in our partnership society, it has already worked out. And another thing, as Jose Claudio has already said, we have a first assessment that will be presented now that it started last year, in October last year, and what is being done. It's ready now. We are now preparing for the presentation. I would like to invite you, which is UNESCO, which will present which researchers were hired by them to make this presentation, to make this assessment, and what should happen now, June 2nd. Once I have saved the date, the formal invitation. I urge everyone to be aware and also to warn you that in the coming months, then we will have a series of other reviews. There is a schedule for a sequence of presentations that will be made of those evaluations scheduled for this year, which are approximately 6. And even I would like to see if with Alexandra. Alexandria, if it would be possible for us to also announce on this channel that the news about the evaluations we are doing was presented there. And the interesting thing is that I also learned from ReDeCa and the difference between the different types of assessment, the reviews, depth levels. And that for us here has been rich enough to understand more what those types are. The complementarities between them also make this organization think about the monitoring system, assessment, how it is structured and how it has won and how it constitutes a process in governance issues. Then, everything is the result of our coexistence and over those years. Thank you so much. And thank you very much, Marcia, and congratulations. Congratulations on this milestone at FINEP. I am a witness to the efforts of Marcia personally and her colleagues to achieve this moment. Those 4, 5, 6 years of fighting for it, so it's one. I think it fills everyone else with encouragement, everyone else on the network. And I thank you so much for sharing. I wouldn't have any other utopian theme. I'm not sure if anyone else wants to raise any questions. Do you have your hand raised? Sorry. Please. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Ayrton. One more news. It's not the good one either. We're here at Banco do Nordeste reviewing our monitoring and evaluation methodology. Our programs and introducing some changes and some innovations. And we have used a lot of the material from the course we took at EVA-LAC on theory of change, anyway, so it's being quite useful, right? We even have an internal version, right? Some of the methodology, right? And then, soon we will make it available to the external public. We are in the process of refining this methodology a bit, define some indicators, but the material that we, from Eva's courses there, that of ReDeCa herself, that we have participated, has been very useful to us. Update and improve our monitoring and evaluation methodology. My congratulations, Ayrton. Thank you very much too. We leave here full of good news. I think that with the challenges that lie ahead of us, this good news gives us that energy that we need to stop and face them, right? It's very good to know, very good to have knowledge. I don't see any more raised hands, so. With that, I wanted to thank everyone for being together at this hour and a half and saying that as soon as this plenary session ends in the next few hours, see you tomorrow, at most, you will be receiving material. The guide for filling out these forms. The post-plenary survey and also asking for the previous one. Who hasn't yet completed that, please? Compliment and not. I see that Pedro also has his hand raised. Pedro. Just a question, Jose Claudio. How are we participating in the pilot? We must also answer this initial questionnaire. I didn't understand. This questionnaire that will be sent next. A very relevant question. Someone. Then we can. When we can talk. We clarify when I send an email. Okay, it's just fine. And we send it to you. Excellent question. Thank you. Thanks to you. People. So, just like that. I thank you all very much. One more time. And see you soon. I think the. Alex. Please. You can talk. Just to thank Marsha for the feedback. Thank you for sharing the experience with everyone. With everyone really. And it makes us very happy that all the experiences, all the knowledge, has also been worth it and is being very well used. And in view of this, I also do not just tell you that precisely this type of content, this type of good practices, experiences, results. The knot is also designed for that, isn't it? So precisely in this tool that we have shared, which is the tool interacts, we are going to give you more reach to the email, don't worry. Is it designed for them? So I would like to urge you that you have already told us about the excellent results I have had with your team, and to all of you that this space is precisely designed for it. Not so that, as its name says, we interact and do not share what we are doing. The opportunities for alliance. Connection to have the same results and the good results they have had in the experience of the bench. Thank you very much. Now I'm key, I'll let you close. There in time you see a pitch here with a post. Yes. It was a name, a lot of it was a photo. I'm going to ask everyone to put yourself in the video. He's a candidate to take the photo. Then he took it off. Thank you, Karina. I think for everyone's benefit it's better for someone to take it away. That it isn't. Thank you very much. Start smiling so I can start to change the page. Ready, thank you very much. Very complicated. Everyone. A hug. Hug. Thank you to all and everyone. What bad taste to see everyone.